a one-of-its-kind organization that focuses on the well-being of boys and men. We welcome you too, sir.
Thank you so much.
With your permission, may we begin the discussion?
Please do.
Yes.
Thank you. My first question to you both, sirs, is that how would you define the men's rights movement or meninism, and why do you think is it important? Mr. Shonee, sir, you would go first, sir.
Well, before that, I'd like to give a big thank you to Army Institute of Law for having a panel discussion on the topic of men. I think the topic men have been missing from all law books, academicians, and public discourse in general. So a big thank you to all of you for having a discussion on this. And I just wanted to say that for last 60 odd years, or maybe 70 odd years, the buzzword in the world has been feminism and equality. So much so that no discussion on any of the groups, be it Dalits, be it downtrodden, be it blacks, like we had Black Lives Matter or anything, it is complete without feminism being a part of it. Or I can say that all these groups have co-opted feminism, thus making sure that they have quota 50% plus population at all times. And it has so happened that by such blatant brute majority which they have been able to make laws or amend laws to such an extent that it has become now a curse on rest of the citizenry, that is men. So we have all kind of laws which is related to dowry, to sexual harassment, to rape, to molestation, to everything, and the laws are being amended like anything, and it favors only one gender, and the word of that gender is more or less taken to be true for filing of the case, regardless of the fact whether the case is genuine or not. And for last 12 odd years, I have been working in this sphere, and I have seen that it is a uphill task for a man to come out of it. And even if he comes out of it, there is a scar on his psyche, on his lifestyle, and there is always a blot on his name that he was a rapist, he was a dowry seeker, he is a molester. So regardless of, and woman, his name is not there generally, whether he is always called as prosecutrix in the law books, in the law journal. It is illegal to take his name in the media. So people are not aware that whether the same woman is coming time and again and alleging against various men about the same, with the same set of allegations. So it is very difficult to be aware of such women. So these are few of the issues, and I think we can begin with that.
Mr. Amit sir, what would be your opinion on this?
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having this panel. As Shonee said, I mean, this is very rare that Institute of Law would be having that such kind of a discussion. We have had certain lectures across different institutions earlier too, but then an institute of this caliber and standard, it really is heartwarming that things are changing. It's been quite a while that I've been associated with the men's rights activism. And when we talk about the idea of men's rights, the first thing that comes that people ask is, oh, why is that needed at all? I mean, the notion has been made always that men have been on the upper, they always have had the upper hand in the society, and women have always been downtrodden. But if we as people who are pursuing law, and we as people who are interested in having fairness, at least from law, we need to understand that any absolute identities are being associated with any kind of emotions or any kind of activity, behavior cannot be justified. For a society, we'll always need to have a very informed view, and keep an unbiased, without any prejudiced mindset to approach things. So meninism, it has come out because there has been a complete overshadowing of the rights that men could have. It is the whole balance has shifted on only one aspect of looking at gender politics, and that has been that okay, women have always been victims. When we speak about a traditional system wherein it was considered that men and women uh, have to follow certain roles, like men have the role of protector and provider and women had the role of caretaker. So this part has been the part of the evolution of human beings themselves. Like it was more safer and more conducive for the whole society. I mean, the first unit of the society being the family in those days, that for the family, if the woman is a caretaker, then it is more conducive for them. That's the reason the other part, the protector and provider's role, went on to men. And that is how the evolution happened. And we fail to realize that the system that we call as patriarchy, it was equally brutal, equally good for both men and women. It has been always that way. Like as I said, men have always been judged on their ability to be a protector and a provider. The better protector provider they are, the more valued they are. Similarly, it is with the woman. A better caretaker, she is the more valued. Or in many cases, like even if she is not a good caretaker, it does not become a primary thing for her to be judged as a woman. But example, for a man, if he is not able to protect his wife, his children, then he'd be looked down upon immediately. Or if he's not a good protector in general, like he would be facing kind of prejudice from the system, from the society. So this had been coming in. But if we look at the modernity in the past 100 years, where this idea of feminism has taken root in the mainstream of our society, we have neglected men and their issues for far too long. False cases, men's health, boys' education. These are just few of the aspects that come across. And eventually, one statistic, if we look at the suicide rate of men and women, I mean, there is no comparison between those. I mean, this is not a statistic to be proud of, or to be a benchmark to look who is better and who's worse. But this is an indicative. It is an indicative figure of where the whole gender politics is getting concluded into. Like the suicide rates of men are far too high for any civilized society to even consider itself civilized, actually, because these in one way are not suicides, but these are murders by the neglect of the society. So that is the reason probably men's rights activism has taken root, and it is growing. We are having such discussions because nothing has changed in the past 10 years since this awareness is coming across about men.
Definitely, sir. So, picking up on what you said about having this gender stereotype of men being protectors and providers, do you think the portrayal of men in media has also sort of helped in propagation of this gender stereotype and pushed men to fit within a box of a protector and a provider?
Yeah, media is just an actually extension of the society's mindset in many ways. But then media has always shown men, like the violence is associated with men. Like if we are talking about objectification of women, we say that item numbers or sexual graphical portrayal of women is not right. It is like stereotyping women as that way. But have ever anyone come across and said that violence being shown in the media, in the entertainment movies and all those in those mediums, that violence actually portrays men as objects of protection and provision? Like if a man in a film would be showing that if he is able to fight off goons, then he's rated as a better man because he's able to protect his girlfriend, his friend, his family members, or anyone it would be. So that portrayal, we don't see any kind of a objection to that kind of a portrayal. So if we are talking about equality and we talk about objectification of men and women, in terms of their gender stereotypes, then these things also should be spoken about. The absence of such communication clearly tells us that we have not focused enough on men.
Definitely, sir. So, Mr. Shonee, my question to you is, if asked in an open-ended sense, what kind of problems do you think men or boys face, especially in India, from your experience that you have worked when you have worked with them?
See, I would say with my limited experience which I have, that currently men are facing uphill task not only for legal terms but also in the field of say Medicare. You would see that there is breast cancer and there are other kind of cancer which is only cervical cancer which affects women, and there has been a lot of research which is going on in that field. But when you say funds about something as common as prostate cancer, the funds are even not available. The government of India does not earmark funds for research on this particular aspect. Now, so most of the cancer funds are again focused towards only one gender, that is women. So that has started creating problems in the Medicare of men. Similarly, there are other things like PNDT. There has been a lot of voice about it, saying that it is to you cannot go and find the sex of a progeny, but in this way you have again strengthened only one sex, that is females. So a lot of fund are going to female Medicare in that way also. Similarly, in the law field, you are already aware, and I have already talked, Amit also said that, that there are laws, and then there is this stereotype of the society. It is not the stereotype of the media only, because media, whatever it grasps from the society itself, and society says that men have to be mature, and so that society stereotype, that puts pressure on men to perform, to go out, if and they have to, and all the most of the uh, dangerous uh, professions, they are mainly spearheaded by men. Firefighters, they are mainly men. Even now there is a lot of voice which says that the permanent commission should be given to women in all kind of services, army, navy, and air force. But again, then there comes voices which says that the battlefield roles will not be assigned to these females, these officers who have permanent commissions. When you talk about maternity leave, there is no provision of paternity leave for males. It is, of course, there is a primary responsibility and there is a time which a female takes, to overcome childbirth. But then when you speak about emotional aspects of it, even a father requires a lot of time bonding with the child if you don't allow him. Again, and one more thing, that it is okay if an educated woman sits at home, nobody will question him. But if a man sits at home and he is not able to find a job, the pressure on him would be much more than on a female. So all put together, there are a lot of issues which comes, and these give rise to psychological issues which affect men, their mental health, and of course there are hormonal issues which are changing with the change of societies.
Yes, sir. So, sir, why do you think are these problems causing? I mean, why do you think is it that men don't step forward and talk about these issues? Is it because there's an underlying sense of institutionalized patriarchy, or is it because of toxic masculinity? So, do you believe in these concepts, and why do you think these contribute to them?
Do I believe in these concepts? These concepts do exist. Stereotypes do exist all across. It is about not only about gender, about all kind of societies. You come to Delhi and there is a joke on Bihari. You go to South India, there is a joke on Sardar. You come to North India and all South Indians are Madrasis. So all kind of stereotypes are there and they exist in the society. So do you think that it creates additional pressure on us? Maybe on few of us, yes. But when you speak about collective effect of all these things put together, and then you have a competition.
Yes.
Whereas a woman who says that I'm equal in all sense, and then she expects certain privileges and leverages in the same job where you are, she is assigned the same kind of work. She is given more privileges and more leverages. You know, now there is a discussion which is happening about leave every month for menstruation leave. I am sorry, but tell me one thing, that if a man and woman have to work and you say that there already exists a pay gap, will not there be a pay gap if a woman works for 25 days and man works for 30 days for the similar kind of wage? I understand there are certain issues. There can be certain women who face a lot many issues, much more issues during their menstruation cycle than other females. But most of the females, our mothers, our aunts, we know that the previous generation have worked through this. Then there are professions like nursing, in which, you know, there are no jobs for men. Mostly there are no jobs for men. And when you say that there should be reservation for women in the jobs where men have primary responsibilities, I don't think that it justifies by any sense. And when you speak about patriarchy, yes, it exists and keep it will be there for a very long time. You cannot just wish it away just by creating a law. Patriarchy is not only one problem which exists in our society. There are lot many problems which exist in our society by the way the society has been for thousands of years. Untouchability. Creating a law has not removed that. So when you say that just because there is a law and all these things should be wished away, it will go away. No, it will not go away. It will take certain time for these things to go away. You have created laws, okay, that is fine, but you cannot just force these laws on the population. You know, we all talk about kangaroo courts, but you go to villages of India and there are cops, and they will exist. They will not go away because you and I don't want it. They will exist as long as 80%, 90% of the population of that particular village wants it. So patriarchy will exist as long as there are men and women both who want it. There are laws to prevent and protect a woman from all these things. But then we have to understand whether these laws are being used or misused.
Yes, sir. Mr. Amit, what would your opinion be on this matter?
Okay, about the stereotype, that's what you mean to say? The
Yes, sir.
stereotypes.
So whether you believe in the concept of toxic masculinity and institutionalized patriarchy, and whether these contribute to the issues that men face.
Firstly, the institutionalized patriarchy. Now, as I said about the system that we call as patriarchy, that's how I address it. It could also be called as gynocentric in one way, because if you look at from one aspect, it is about, okay, men going out and earning for the family, or in feminists discourse, it is considered as men having more power. At the same time, if I look at from another perspective, it is all about gynocentricity, because it revolves around everyone working for the women and children. The men are supposed to be working around, going out. The protection aspect comes in terms of women and children first. As I said that the protection of women and children is always higher in the society. If there is an natural calamity, an attack by another animal or man or another army, it was men who used to be supposed to always protect women and children first. So if we look at from a master-slave perception, it doesn't fit in that men were masters. So that's the reason they went and saved women first. That cannot happen, that a master goes out and saves the slaves first. So it could also be called as gynocentricity. So this stereotypical part that we're talking about, that okay, men are supposed to be more masculine, they are supposed to be more powerful, and that's the reason. Does it affect the mental setup of men? Yes, it does, but it's not because men don't want to come and discuss. Okay, it was a notion, it was understood that okay, men don't want to open up, men want to keep themselves, all the emotions bottled in themselves, and they suffer in isolation, and eventually leading to depression, and many a time to the extreme step of suicide. But what we have come across, I've seen that men do want to open up. It's only that they don't get a platform to open up. They don't have the trust from the society that when they come out and talk about their issues, they will not be ridiculed. Okay, when we have created a platform wherein men can come and discuss openly without being, without having the fear of being judged, that a non-judgmental entity is going to listen to him. In that aspect, men come out, they open up, and that is where somewhere the society is lacking in it. So society stereotypes about men, the more macho he is, more respect he is going to gain. That does play an issue. That does lead to the idea of men not opening up to certain extent. But at the same time, we should not, in my understanding, talk about masculinity in a very degrading manner, because as femininity is important for the society, for the entities of society of females and to men to a large to some extent. Similarly, masculinity is also important. Okay, when we talk about toxic masculinity, okay, if this masculinity is impeding men from going ahead and opening up, going ahead and sharing their issues or seeking help when they need it, then definitely it is bad. But at the same time, masculinity is also a very important aspect, important part of the society. I can give you an example. Like just a couple of days ago, there was one railway linesman, Mayur Shelke, who had seen that a blind woman, when she was holding the hand of a child. The child, they just wavered on the platform. The child fell on the railway tracks. There was an oncoming train. Mayur Shelke, he ran, he picked up the child, kept it on the platform. He also jumped on the platform. Now, this aspect that he has done, the behavior that has caused all this, is masculinity. Okay, if we had a Mayur Shelke over there who was all about femininity, example, and I'm not saying that femininity is wrong in any way, but let us say a person over there had complete feminine qualities, as we want to describe it, because I don't actually relate these emotions with any genders, but let us say he is full of femininity, then he would have stood there scared, shedding tears, and just watching a tragedy unfold in front of his eyes. Probably he wouldn't have risked his life to go jump in front of the train, pick the boy and save it. Okay, and save himself also. I mean, being mindful of what the risk that he's taking in. So masculinity is not completely bad in a society. Masculinity, if we want to shaft it off, then that part which impedes men to come out and discuss their issues, that maybe we can shun off, but it will not happen only by men. It needs to be done by men, women, overall society, by everyone, wherein they can make men comfortable to come and talk about their issues.
Indeed, sir. So I do agree with the fact that both masculinity and femininity are important in a society where masculinity provides the strength, and in a more physical sense, femininity provides strength in a more emotional sense. So, sir, we have Vaastav Foundation is quite famous for using symbolism to portray men's issues, especially during Mumbai marathons. Could you tell our audience a little bit about some of the symbols that you have used in the Mumbai marathons?
Yeah. Thanks so much for bringing it up, because we take a lot of pride in the Mumbai marathons that we've been doing. and it's really pleasing that people talk about it. We have had people who, I mean, whom we meet somewhere else, and they say that, oh, you are the guys who are coming in Mumbai marathons. So that has become a huge symbol for us. Yes. So we started off with idea of coming out and talking about men's issues, and the only part, if we want to take things to street, is that we can do a dharna, and generally these dharnas, these road shows are confined in a open ground, wherein it is just about people come, get together, shout certain slogans, and give a written notification to the government, and then go back. So we wanted to do something more beyond that, and Mumbai Marathon has turned out into like a carnival of itself. So we came out with our banner, a huge 15-feet banner which says "Men's rights are human rights." And the first year we had, we had this idea about showing that men are not just an ATM machine, like for a provider for their family. They are much more than that. The objectification of man as a wallet, a walking wallet, or a walking ATM machine needs to stop. So we had this ATM machine which we had created, and we walked around using that. So that was one symbolism which came out. Then we had this next year we bought this huge serpent we had created, 14 feet long serpent, about 5 feet wide. We were all holding it. It was about 7 to 8 people had to hold it. It was that huge, and that we called it as serpent of misandry. We wanted to talk about misandry. Like, we always keep hearing about misogyny all around, but then misandry is also a very important part wherein the gender roles should be interested in. So we called it as serpent of misandry, which gobbles of men. Okay, so patriarchy, it enslaves men also, and it's just being called patriarchy. It could have been called as gynocentrism. So gynocentrism enslaves men as well, and we had shown in what form. Like, there is child labor. Like, 6 times more boys are employed as child labor in India even now. Okay, but then we don't see it as a very gendered focus for child labor. We always talk about child labor in terms of boys and girls as well. Okay, but that is the reality. So we wanted to focus on that. Okay, more boys are working as child labor. Then we spoke about the false cases like 498A, sexual harassment law, the molestation law, the rape laws, and so on. That was in terms of the serpent of misandry, which also spoke about medical issues. Then we had created this Make in India, this lion. You would be seeing this Make in India icon symbol everywhere. So we put in a lot of effort, and we had made a replica of the Make in India lion with all the gears and everything intact. So we wanted to highlight it to the government that when you are focusing so much upon productivity, like India's future depends upon the productivity of men, the growth will be propelled when people become more productive, and so on. So we wanted to put the message across that men, when they are facing false cases, like in 498A, 98% of the cases turn out to be false. In rape, 76% of the cases turn out to be false. Molestation, again, it's in 80% that the cases are found to be false. And when these men, these innocent men, are fighting these cases, it's not just a short duration affair. It is like about 7 to 8 years are lost. Very productive years of men are lost in fighting these cases. A lot of time men get into depression, they lose their jobs. It impacts the society economically far more than people are have that perception about it. So we wanted to highlight that. That's where we brought in Make in India lion, and it was pierced with different arrows of all the different issues that plague men and in turn the society. Then we also had this idea of men walking in a walking jail. So innocent men being put behind bars along with their families. So that is something we have been highlighting. So these are some of the issues. There were some other things also which were minor ones. But then unfortunately from the past, this year we couldn't have the marathon. We're just looking forward to that. We keep trying to do this symbolism in some way. I would like to point out that on International Men's Day, we have been able to get the CST UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus in Mumbai. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We have been able to lit this building up by UN in blue. It's a very small symbolism, But then people do ask why it is blue on this particular day, and then they come to know about, oh, there is something called as Men's Day, International Men's Day, and why Men's Day is required. So it is a conversation starter, and that's why we are focused on this symbol, and we are really glad that we've been able to do it for the past 4 years now.
Yes, sir. So, sir, the next question is to Mr. Shonee. So, as we can see that there have been a lot of cases, legal cases that have reached top judiciary, seeking equality in terms of laws that may be adverse not only against men, that are adverse against men and not women. The law on adultery, which was recently struck down, is one such example. What is your opinion on gender-neutral laws, sir? So you muted.
Yes, I muted it so that the voice doesn't. So I would say that there are laws which can never be 100% gender neutral, because there are laws which emanate from the body of a woman actually. So they cannot 100% be gender neutral. But again, there is a certain semblance required, because we have created laws which are now gender biased. So they are biased against a particular gender. There has been petitions in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has repeatedly said that it is not for us to create laws. Of course, I won't agree with that 200%, because RTI and the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act, they both came from Supreme Court judgments. So if Supreme Court in its own wisdom wanted, they could have created these laws as gender neutral. They could have said that these laws can be gender neutral, and wherever the word man occurs, it can be construed as man and woman. And wherever the word woman occurs, it can also be construed as man and woman, except in these, exceptions. So it could have. However, when we speak about parliament, we have been meeting a lot of MPs. There are a lot of men's right groups I'm also associated with, and we keep on going and meeting various MPs whenever the parliament is in session. There is something called collective bias which comes. So when you speak to one MP, he'll say that, oh, I am aware that the law is being misused, and yes, there should be an amendment. When you speak to another MP, he'll also say the same thing. Then you meet the third one, and he'll also say the same thing. But when all three of them are sitting together and you go and make a presentation, and then they'll say, no, there's nothing like that. Women have been harassed for centuries. So, okay, women have been harassed for centuries, but I don't owe it to you, to a particular woman, that she can misuse the law against me because the previous generations of women have been harassed by men, and this very thing which I am saying was said by Renuka Chaudhary, who was Minister of Women and Child Development, and she said on a TV show, it is men's time to suffer, because women have suffered for so long. It is men's time to suffer. So if you think that these kind of parliamentarians are there, and this kind of thought process is there which exist, and a collective bias which exists against men, only judiciary can save men, because all the amendments or all the relaxation which has come in draconian laws like 498A, whether it is implementation of 41A of CRPC, or a process of having pre-litigation mediation, they have all come through judicial pronouncements and not through the act of any act in parliament. So I believe that we'll have to keep on pushing, and someday judiciary itself will come to our rescue in all these gender bias laws. And yes, the gender bias exists in law, not only law, how it is perceived. See, you go to any police station and they'll not treat an accused as a man only, as a human being only. If he is accused of something as heinous as rape, a person who is accused of rape, he goes to prison. He is brutally beaten up there by all the inmates, because this crime is considered so heinous. So just because he has been accused, whether right or wrong, and as Amit said, 76% of cases turn out to be false. So for every one true case, three men are beaten and abused, and they have to, sacrifice their careers, their lives, tens of years, or they'll have to shell out a lot of money for a deed which they have not done. And then there are parliamentarians, and then there are, people who will say that it's men's time to suffer. Sorry, we don't owe anything to any of the women because of the acts, if there were any acts of my previous generations.
Right, sir. So, sir, say now that you've talked about how men face a lot of prejudice and a lot of discrimination when they go to police stations. So, sir, picking up on this point, say if there's a male complainant who has to complain about cases of violence or assault or domestic violence, so do you think they face more of a struggle with law as compared to women?
There is no law about domestic violence against men. There cannot be any domestic violence as per law against man. What are you saying? There can be a physical assault on man,
Hmm.
but there cannot be any domestic violence. So if there is a physical assault on man and he goes to complain in a police station, the policeman would say, "You are a man. How can this lady beat you up?" The man says that I was beaten only because I didn't want to beat her, because otherwise she would have complained. And the policeman says, "Tu आदमी नहीं है." So there is no law by which a man can go to complain for an act which is done against him, against his body, even sexual manipulation by a woman. And you will be surprised in POXO acts, more than half, more than half of the victims are male children. But again, it is very difficult for a parent to file a complaint if his male ward is sexually being exploited.
Right, sir.
Um,
So,
Sir,
sir,
Shweta, if I
my
could interrupt over here and ask sir a question
Yes,
very
yes,
quickly, sir,
yes.
before I forget. Sir, then, in such circumstances, in such cases, as you just mentioned out here, what are the legal remedies that men can take recourse to, if there are any? I'm not even sure if there are any, because this is very interesting. Because hitherto we were actually ignorant of all these men's problems and issues that you and Amit sir have been discussing here. So it is quite an interesting interactive session that we are having here. So what are the kind of remedies, legal remedies that men can take recourse to once they are incarcerated? I mean, can they do anything about their situation? Can they get out of it? I mean, I would really want to know about this.
See, I'll tell you that the remedies, whatever exist, there are remedies which exist in law. But again, you being students of law would understand that the CRPC and the IPC were made in such a way that the accused could not get back to the state. You know, even if, and it was drafted by Macaulay, and the same thing continued even after independence. So it is very difficult for a person or accused to sue the state for wrong incarceration. Though there exists law, there are instances where people have gotten back, but what they get is pittance actually. In fact, even recently, a couple of years back, not recently, a couple of years back, a person was arrested despite having a notice of 41A CRPC. He was arrested from the police station despite that he attended the police station on 41A CRPC notice. So we went to NHRC, and what we got? He was jailed for 7 days, and what he got was 50,000 rupees compensation. He was a government employee. He lost his job and he had to fight back to get his job back. So unless it is very gross misuse of law, and which is on face of it, you see that it is very gross misuse, you don't get anything. And even if you get anything, it is pittance against what you go through. Recently, there was a person who was let off by Supreme Court after he has spent 20 years in jail for a rape he did not commit. 20 years in jail for a rape he did not commit. He was let off by Supreme Court. He was facing life imprisonment. Did the state give him anything? No. Did the Supreme Court give him anything in the judgment? No. But if there is a woman who is, subjected to any brutality, the court itself awards a compensation. There is an institution. The government pays him compensation, pays her compensation, sorry. So, sorry, there's actually absolutely nothing which exists in law books, and it is a person has to crawl back to his life, to the semblance of whatever is left of his life after going through all of this litigation, and I tell each and every person who comes to me, you have to be mentally and emotionally very strong if you are going to fight these cases. Amit wanted to say something.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, you've been saying the right part. I would like to highlight one thing. I mean, you all being students of law, one way to describe the judicial process in India is that the process itself is the punishment. Someone facing a false case for about 4-5 years, or let us say, I mean, that is a very conservative estimate. Generally, it takes about 7-8 years. Once he has gone through that, he has already lost all his stamina to fight, to keep up any stomach to fight. He's lost it. The example that Shonee mentioned, the guy had lost his livelihood of being a government employee. That's the reason he could fight back, because he saw more worth in fighting. Otherwise, people don't even see a worth in fighting back, because if you come back and file a case upon your opponent and try to get her fixed, we have had Supreme Court judges in Supreme Court openly saying, oh, you want to file a case against your wife? Or you want to file a perjury case against your wife herself? That is how they look at it. When a woman is filing a case, they don't see that she's filing a case against a husband. They see that she's filing a case against a man. But a man fighting back and proving that, okay, he is innocent, now it is her turn to take the punishment because she has lied in front of in an open court. She has wasted the resources of the state, so she should be held for perjury. At that time, that is their mentality. That is how they come up and say. Now, one more small thing. I mean, there are laws being only made for women and not men. But let us even talk about the procedures. Even in the procedures of bail, okay, a woman can get a bail only because of her gender. She is considered equivalent to a child lesser than the age of 16 years or a weak and infirm patient. If you see CRPC 437, it allows a woman to get bail unless the crime is of a murder. So where is this equality? Have you ever seen any women's organization coming up and saying that, no, we want this particular law also to be changed? The big problem is that these, whatever the proponents of equality that call themselves are, they only talk about rights, never about responsibilities. If they had come up and really been an equalist, they would have spoken about responsibilities as well. Then there was no need for a men's rights activist to separately sit and talk about it. They would have themselves come and said that, okay, women could misuse this particular law. Let us have a clause for punishment upon misuse also. Okay. We have done that. Okay. As Shonee mentioned about the sexual harassment bill, we went to the parliament and there was a lot of nonsense which was drafted earlier, but then we got it changed. I mean, because it was in the process of getting updated and a lot of inputs were coming in. Now there is because of our efforts, there is a penalty on misuse. A man, if he is being falsely charged of a sexual harassment at workplace law, then he can sue the opponent, the complainant, that she has filed a false case. So that was what the law was made, that there should be penalty on misuse. But when the guidelines came out, do you know what is the penalty that has been decided? The guidelines say that the woman can be given a punishment of a penalty of 500 rupees if she files a false sexual harassment case. That is the reality. You can destroy a career of a man, his life, his family, his livelihood, and what is at stake against that for you is that maybe you will lose 500 rupees, that too if the man fights back and he's awarded the penalty. Okay, so this kind of bias or this kind of imbalance in the system, it is something that we all should be fighting about. It is not about men or women. When we are talking about equality, it has to be equality in all aspects in terms of rights as well as responsibility.
Right, sir. I hope, Sheetal ma'am, your question has been satisfactorily been answered right now.
Yes, Shweta, thank you so much. Thank you,
So,
sir.
moving on, sir, I would like to bring about the topic of intersectionality in the movement. When we talk about intersectionality, it is important to note that majority of the caste-based or sexuality-based violence are being caused. The victims are men. So, would you like to comment on that, Mr. Amit, sir? You can go first.
Yeah. See, talking about intersectionality, I mean, the men's movement as such, it is still in its infancy. Now, feminism had its first wave, second wave, third wave, and then they were looking out what next? So they have evolved into looking at the intersectionality part and various other things. So, from a men's perspective, we identify a person as a man. It is true that certain sections, if they are more vulnerable, then a man in that particular section would be more vulnerable. But then when we see the major cases that we are looking at, like the 498A, the matrimonial cases, the molestation cases, the misuse of these cases, the rape laws and sexual harassment, there is no pattern. It is across the sections. We have auto rickshaw drivers in our group as well as industrialists, and all they want is some kind of emotional support and a non-judgmental entity to hear them. That's all. So in our movement, we are not seeing intersectionality to that aspect, I would say.
Right, sir. Mr. Shonee, sir, would you like to comment on that?
No, again, as Amit has said, that we are still in our infancy actually. And secondly, unlike other movements, which has a lot of monetary support, which has come from either abroad or from government funds, our movement is self-funded. Most of the master work is done by people in Mumbai itself, and similarly, I am part of Sahodar, and the Sahodar, have funding, in-house funding only. So there is so much we can do, and we have not worked on these aspects as yet. We are working more on helping one man at a time, giving emotional support, giving moral support, some legal guidance wherever it is required. So this is what we have been doing. And as you would also understand that the men's right movement all across the globe is still in infancy. There are no people who are working solely for the movement, because the movement is self-funded. So if a person is working 24/7 for the movement, who will fund him? Unlike there is a ministry for women and child development. So there are a lot of machinery, state machinery, which is funding.
So, the whole funding as such, as saying, like 1,30,000 crore rupees is earmarked for women's issues every year. And for us, we have to put everything out of our pockets. It is all burning out of a passion only that the movement has come to this level. And when we talk about intersectionality, I will also like to mention one more thing. We don't see issues as of now as separated away from us. Like, we are equally passionate about sewage workers. The death toll of sewage workers every year in India, it's about 1,400 plus odd people die every year only cleaning our sewage. The society's collective sewage. These many men are lost every year. Men's lives are lost every year. It is equivalent to the lives lost on borders by armed forces. Armed forces also lose around 1,400 odd men every year. But the biggest thing is, we have this, you can call it a class difference or ignorance of the society as such. But sewage workers are also equally important, and there the aspect of the communities which work for it, everything gets covered. But we are equally passionate for both aspects. I mean, everyone as such.
Right, sir. So now, both with your permissions, I would like to steer the conversation a little towards the relationship between feminism and men's rights movement, because we believe that this is an important conversation so that a lot of misunderstanding which is there within people is cleared out. So my first question is that a feminist and feminism movement often propagate that the idea of feminism is not to put down the male community, but to bring women at par with men. Is this a similar idea that is shared within the feminism movement vis-a-vis women?
I'll say that there are the feminism has itself gone through a lot of changes. So when you are talking about in 1960s, when the feminism or the even way back in 1920s, the feminism movement started as a movement for equality, you know, and but right now when you see about there are radical feminists, we have started calling them feminazis, you know, and they want the complete control over men's life. I'm sorry, that is not a movement any right-minded person would be like to be associated with. But you look at a lot many people are actually not only supporting it, they are patronizing it. Even I don't know how aware you are. Yesterday only there was a woman who was not wearing a mask, or day before yesterday, not wearing a mask. He was stopped. The couple was stopped by the police, and she rattled a lot of things. And there were a lot of people who were supporting her on the social media. A lot of women saying all the good things about this woman, about the rights, and on the same in the same manner, you know, you would see if a man would have done the same thing, he would have been hanged. Anti-society, you know. He is the only spreader of corona. So there is nothing called feminist movement or a movement for equality any longer which exists in this country. Yes, I know there are few women who are working, but most of the women who are sitting on top, they are not working for equality. They are working for controlling how laws are being made, how lives of men should be governed, how the family system should be, how our offices should be run. You know, they want to control each and every aspect of it.
So
Yes, sir.
I would just come in with this here. I mean, there was also a question about the rape laws. I will first to talk about, you know, that feminism has stopped being about equality a long time ago. I mean, that is what our experience is. It's not that we believe or we think that has been our experience. I'll give you an example. Is that whether rape laws can be made gender neutral? That was a question somewhere in the chat. On 4th of December 2012, the Indian government, the cabinet had passed an law saying that rape laws can be made gender neutral now. Okay. Unfortunately, 16th December, Nirbhaya happened, and the whole discourse in the media and in the overall country, and rightfully, it was quite agitated. But then what happened? I mean, instead of talking about more stringent punishment to perpetrators who are caught, or talking about more safety and all that stuff, we had feminists doing a dharna in Jantar Mantar saying that rape law should not be made gender neutral. Okay. Why would a equalist, which feminists themselves calls as, would say that men should not get justice? I mean, when you are not putting a law for gender neutral law for men for rape, what you're doing? I mean, you are going ahead and saying that men should not get justice, right? These particular men should not be allowed to be filing a case when they are violated. So when such things are happening, I mean, I don't call them as feminists. I mean, as equalists, they could be called as feminists, no issues. But the basic point is that feminism has stopped being about equality, and it shows in their behavior. The other aspect which we are asking about our movement. See, our movement, as we said, it is in infancy, and we don't have any issues for anyone. Our demands are very simple, that all laws need to be gender neutral, because we want to take the society towards equality. That's first thing. Second thing is that if anybody misuses law, then they should be punished, irrespective of whether they are men or women. These are a very equalist standpoint of view which we men's rights activists have been taking from a decade. Yeah. We have got, at least in Mumbai, I mean, most of the cities, we have a women's wing of men's rights activism group. Okay. We have Mashal in Mumbai. There are some other organizations also, Masi and many other. So there are women who are supporting us because they see that this is not equality which is being propagated by feminism. On the contrary, something that we are demanding is equality. So that's the reason we get support from women as well. And we don't see women as enemy or anyone. We just want to focus on men. That's all. Men's well-being, men's health, boys' education. These are our goals, immediate goals. That's it.
So, sir, a question that had been asked in in the chat was that these roles that exist in the society are what is propagating these stereotypes to exist, and as long as the society exists, these social roles will also exist. So, what can we as individuals or as a society do to help dispel these gender stereotypes or make it a gender neutral space for everyone? Mr. Shonee, sir, if you could go first.
See, I am actually at a loss to understand that if there are social roles which we have to do, then we have to do it. And we all agree that these social roles will not go away for a long, long time. But then how can there be equality in those roles? A man can never be a mother, he cannot carry the child in the womb, that role will always remain with a woman, right? Or we want to go to a society where every man and woman has a child outside the body of that particular woman. No, I don't think so, that we want to have equality of that kind, that everybody hires a surrogate mother. We don't want that kind of equality. So there will be social roles, there will be roles of genders which are there and which will always remain there. When we are talking about equality should be that there should be equal opportunities for both male and female, that there should be equal pay for male and female for the equal kind of work they do. If there are roles, there are jobs which women want, the roles should be same as what man has. The law should be equal for both male and female. The punishment should be equal for both male and female. The child rights should be equal for both mother and father. The law of maintenance, it should not be the sole responsibility of a father to maintain the child. So when we are talking about equality, the equality should be in all encompassing sense. In all senses, there should be an equality.
Right, sir. Mr. Amit, sir, would you like to say something?
Yeah, see, as as mentioned, where biology will come in, there definitely those will define the social roles, because we can have equally brought up boy and a girl, but at some point of time biology will kick in and they will have their own roles that they will pursue, and we should keep them free to do that. If we are trying to mold them or confine one particular child's femininity or boy's masculinity, then it is something injustice that we are doing to them. What needs to be understood is that, okay, there needs to be harmony when we are living with each other. Men and women can cook. It need not be a gendered role. Men and women can drive. It need not be a gendered activity. Okay? But if somebody is not comfortable driving, they should not be forced in. Somebody is not comfortable cooking, boy or a girl, they should not be forced in. But these are the more harmless situations that we are talking about, and it takes a little bit of radicalization to think every single activity in terms of gender role. What is required is on a more serious and a more more higher level about that men are being lost. Men's lives are being lost because they don't have a recourse to justice, because they are there is an institutionalized bias against them. If we talk about gender activism only to this level also, it is fine. I mean, if a woman, if anywhere if she is being beaten, okay, let her have the justice that she wants. At the same time, let us understand what caused that particular man to, get violent. If it is the masculinity of the society which expects him to be, a macho, that is drilling down him to become violent, we address that separately. Okay, so right now what we need to understand is that harmony can be obtained. It can be, we can reach a point of harmony wherein both the genders can stay together with each other. There is no need for a lopsided view of the world, lopsided laws to just punish one gender and leave the other gender completely open. It is only going to create more and more chaos. Like, we don't want a gender war, do we? We don't want it. If we don't want it, then we need to have a very objective look at what is happening. Nobody is saying that scrap all the rape laws because rape laws are being misused. What is being said over here is that, okay, rape laws are being misused. Let us plug the loopholes which are allowing these rape laws to be misused. That is what is being said here. Dowry harassment, it is, if it is existing, we will, we will tackle it. But the misuse is so enormous that it is, it is dwarfing the actual number of cases, and it is only giving bad name to whoever is propagating or supporting these laws. So the supporters of these laws have got more stake in it to see to it that these laws are not misused. That is all that we are asking.
Right, sir. So, sir, on that note, since our time's up, we would like to bring this entire this wonderful discussion to an end.
Shweta?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
Yes, ma'am.
Shweta. Can you please give me 5 minutes?
Sure, ma'am. Please go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, sir. Hello, Shonee sir. Hello, Amit sir. I'm Dr. Amrita, and I'm teaching gender justice in the institute to the third year students. And I think most like around 10 students, they are taught, like I taught them gender justice. And I've also completed my PhD on sexual harassment of women at workplace, which is basically I'm criticizing the act. And when I'm approached with my topic that I want to critically analysis the act because I'm in favor of gender neutral laws, and everybody was just shocked to see that why as a woman you want to criticize the act. But I said, yes, I want to criticize because I want to show the reality. And when I did the empirical study, it focuses on transgenders also and men's also. So I'm not in like against men's or I'm not against women rights. I'm just in favor of a human rights. And but I just like 2-3 statements are just stuck in my mind. I just want to clear about them. Like Shonee sir said about the menstruation leaves and the command, the army, the women gets commands in the army and all. So sir, like I want to ask what is wrong in that and why you feel kids should not be there. And means what I want to say, I just want to say we are not here talk about like men should not talk about against women rights and women should not talk about against the men's rights. We should talk about the human rights. Like we both genders have equal rights, right, in the society. There's no nothing should I think feminism and it should not be, these kind of terms should not be there. I always, when I taught gender justice, all the laws are related to the women only. And my boy students always ask, ma'am, why it's like that? But I taught them about, I give them data of domestic violence against men also. Because I'm always like, it's gender justice, so we have to be talk about gender justice, right? For both the genders. So I just want to say these kind of statements, like, when we are talking about reservation. Sir, because when we see the practical, you have to, I think, agree they're both sides of the coins. Practically, yes, women faced harassment. Even there is a case of yesterday, there is a case of Chandigarh. There is a 32 years old woman. She was indirectly known to me. She was beaten up by her husband from last 3 years. And the husband was in Chandigarh police. And no one wants to take her complaint. There was lots of efforts were done just to file a complaint. She was referred to Sector 32 hospital. His 4 months old son was referred. They were so badly beaten up by them. They make videos and 2-3 people and all. So I just want to say, yes, I saw the cases where men are also beaten up by the wives. Both the things are there. So I just want to request everyone here, and I just want to request to the, like, everyone, just we have to talk about the equal rights, which is just the human rights, because either men rights or either women rights, they both are human rights. I think you I think you are also agree. I don't want to say anything against you, but I just want to say these things because these things are just stuck in my mind. Like when we are talking about the like why the menstruation, it's because if I get like this is the
Okay,
difference
ma'am.
which
I
is
mean, if
made
I
by
can
the
come in
nature,
right now.
Yes.
right?
Yeah, you have
Because
made your point. That's the reason I just want to come in right now. I mean, I'm not
yes,
defending Shonee or because he's capable of doing that himself, but I'll just tell
yes,
you, when we talk about equality, we talk about like, let us say how much. I mean, when we are talking about an egalitarian system, also it is also about justice. We want to be fair with everyone. Okay, when a man is giving in 20 hours a week, let us say example, and a woman is giving 15 hours a week, whatsoever the reason be, okay, would you want them to be paid equally, or would you want to be paid according to their the time that they are given?
so just tell me one thing. Do you feel I am a working woman? My husband is also working, but when I come home, I have to be take care of home also. Na, this is I think 2-3% our husbands are such a mature or men are mature who
No,
just
no,
take
I
care of
get
home.
it. No, no, see,
You
I'll
just
tell you,
right, right.
let us
But
not
I
get
just
into
want
no
to say like what is the loss just to give 3 days or
no,
two
no,
days leave?
there is no loss.
If it's
There is no
if
loss.
it's
I'll tell you,
yes,
it is in terms of the awareness. Now, I will give you another
yes.
example. Like in Mumbai, there are. I mean, you must have seen Mumbai trains, wherein it's like a crush or rush, that level. There are men who are going through dialysis. Okay, dialysis, and they are still working. That is also because of the gender stereotype roles only. Okay, men who are like taking dialysis in the evening, they sleep, next day morning they go to their offices in crush hour. They are not even allowed to go in the handicapped compartments. Okay, now even if they are allowed in handicapped compartment, that itself is a big thing, because they will at least not be crushed with all their shenanigans of the things. So these guys, they will never get any kind of a favor or any kind of relaxation from the society, from the government, from these things. But there are so
Agree,
many
sir. I
people to
agree.
talk about these kind of issues. So it is not about a race to the bottom or who is a bigger victim. But when you're bringing in up this particular issue, think about these things also. There are men who are
I
going
agree,
through
agree.
worse situations, and they are not
I'm sorry,
not
I'm
being
not in
focused
favor
upon
of
it.
this, na, reserving seats in buses and trains. I'm not in favor of that. Why
Right.
there is a need to
So,
reserving seats
so
and all?
I just want to come in and say one more thing, that there it is a very natural phenomenon for women. It is nature which has designed women like that. Now, I understand a woman taking leave if the situation is debilitating, something which is, if she is under tremendous pain and things like that, and all organizations may consider it. But saying that it is a right of a woman to take leave for 3 days, 5 days every month, do you think it is justified? Do you tell me? Do you think it is justified?
No, 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 sir. I'm not saying it as a right. I'm not talking about rights, sir. I'm talking about humanity here. Okay, like sometimes some of the women faced a lot of things during that,
If
and
sometimes if sometimes some of the women face it, that means that all the women should be allowed leave. Now, just hold on to this thought. Just because some of the women at some point of time faced it in the past, the whole conundrum of patriarchy still exists. I don't owe it to you. Again, let me clarify. I don't owe it to you because of something which nature has given you. I don't owe it to you. I don't owe it to you because something which 20 generations before me, a male had done to a woman. Right? If there is a condition which is painful on a particular woman, very painful on a particular woman, she can seek leave. Big organizations, I personally know, there are organizations which have different care rooms for such women. I am talking about IT companies. They have included that particular aspect in their organization itself so that they don't waste time and resources because, you know but asking it as a right, then of course you will very readily agree that every woman should be paid 5/6 of the pay of a man, because she'll work for only 25 days in a month.
But
Why
sir,
don't
when
you
what,
agree to that? No,
sir,
why don't you
again
agree to
I
that?
want to say,
I would
again,
like to
sir, I
add
want
one
to
thing.
say, sir, again I want to say this
Amrita,
that
I would like to add one thing. There are many women who work in the corporate world, and generally we see that the people talk about women's right in the corporate world. But one point which people miss is generally woman marries a man who earns 2 to 3 times more than her, and she's competing with a colleague who is a single earner, and he goes home and his wife says, okay, give me 50% of your salary because I am taking care of your house. So just because something is happening with some a particular woman or a particular man does not means that
sir, you guys didn't listen. You guys didn't understand what I want to say. I just want to say we are not here to against a man, and you should not be against a woman. We should talk about human rights. I just want to say this thing, right? As a woman, I done my PhD for a favor of a men, because I want that workplace harassment is men's harassment is there. I want that act should be gender neutral. I spent my 6 years for this research. I just want to say we should not say things against the genders. We should talk about human
No,
rights.
no, no.
This is
It
just I
is.
want to
So,
say.
so Amrita, this was only part of my answer actually.
Yeah.
And second part which I wanted to highlight is that women are asking for permanent commission in army, right? So, are you asking for combat roles also? Now,
Sir,
now, now, wait a minute, wait a minute. And if you are not asking for combat roles, or if you think that asking for combat roles, the problem will be multifold. See, a male Sipahi getting captured by enemy and a female soldier getting captured by enemy would be totally two different things on the psyche of the population. One Abhinandan was he there was a pilot who was captured by Pakistan, and there was all kind of voices which were going on in this country, and there was a general who said so that he signed for it. He signed for it that he'll fight for the nation. And if he is captured, we are not going to make any concessions about it. But do you think that the same thing would the general would have with the same confidence he'll be able to say the same thing? That she signed for it, and even if she is captured, we are not going to do anything over and beyond to get her back. The whole nation, 50% of the population will be standing at the India gate. Bring back this lady, give whatever they want.
so the thing is, we have to change the mentality, na? This is just I want to say
So,
that men
wait
and
a
women are
wait,
equal.
no. Once I am agreeable to changing the mentality, only once the mentality that males do not have any advantages in this society is changed. Patriarchy does not exist to oppress women. If that mentality is changed, I am ready for it. I'll listen to you, and
And
I'll
such
I'll, I'll
advantages
stand
Ma'am,
by
should
you
not be for
that
anyone.
time.
ma'am, we've
Advantages
reached
should not be
the
for anyone, not for
Yes.
women and not for men.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
I
All
just
right.
one
Thank
thing
you
more
so
I would
much.
like to add.
Thank
One
you
thing
so
more
much.
I would like to add. I wanted to open after school activity, but people suggested me don't open it because parents do not feel safe when a man is running the daycare type or after school kind of activity. So that area I left only for women because I respect the parents, their the concern for the safety of their children. So definitely, so that space I have left for the women. Let women do it, even though I wanted to do it, but I left it. So that happens with all the gender have their own issue that they have to face.
Can I just
Well,
answer? Can I just answer
uh,
Amrita ma'am's thing where she said that she is PhD and
give
yet
me
she has to go home and cook for the family, something like that. Can I just answer on that, ma'am?
All right. We have one final comment from you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah. Hi. My name is Deepak Wag, and I'd like to tell you that, ma'am, are we ready to imagine a world where only women will be earning and men will be taking care of the families? See, in today's world, we are saying that many of the matrimonial discords are only because, and many of them, the reason particularly being that the ego clashes between men and women over the earning source. Okay, somewhere where woman is earning more, or where woman is earning even half of the percentage of the man, there are chances, and there are many cases where the only cases happen when such kind of criteria are matched. Okay, so are we ready to imagine a world if woman goes out and earns, and while man sits at home, enjoys everything and take care of the family? Are we ready for that kind of a gender shift, role shift in the gender, and yet live in a harmony as we have been living for ages and centuries? Are we ready for that?
Why not, sir?
Uh,
All right.
Ladies and
All
gentlemen, I'm
right.
sorry to
Thank you
interrupt,
so
but
much.
we'll have to bring this discussion
Yes,
to
Shweta
an
is
end.
absolutely correct. Yes, and in fact, thank you, Shweta. You've been very beautifully moderating everything. Thank you so much. First
Thank
of all,
you.
I think we missed out on something very important that Shonee Kapoor sir and Amit Deshpande sir said, and in fact, they reiterated this throughout their, you know, the discussion. That yes, we have to look forward to and endeavor to create an egalitarian world. This is the word that they used. I think some of us must have missed out on. So we are looking at equality. We are not saying that one gender is superior to the other. Yes, we are endeavoring and we should endeavor to create an egalitarian world where both the genders, and in fact the other genders as well, who do not come in the ambit of these binaries that the society has created, we are looking forward to a world where we deal with each other as a human being first. So I come across as a human being first. I'm not a woman, you're not a man. We are humans first, and human for humanity's sake, I think, should be the slogan that we should be cheering up for. So first of all, we are all humans, and that is something that was stressed upon. Shonee Kapoor sir and Amit Deshpande sir, on behalf of the management, faculty, staff, and Abhayam Army Institute of Law, Center for Gender Empowerment, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for sparing time from your busy schedule to be here with us. I would like to, first of all, also congratulate you for the endeavors that you have taken up in, bringing the equality around and helping people, more specifically men. Yes, because hitherto we were oblivious of their predicament. Yes, I'll be very honest in saying that. I wasn't too sure and I wasn't aware of, I was oblivious to an extent about their predicament, but you have enlightened us all, about their experiences and about the situations that they land up in, and sometimes dire straits they could be in. So thank you so much for being there for this session. From everyone here at Army Institute of Law and Abhayam, the Center for Gender Empowerment, I thank you both once again. And we look forward to more of such enlightening sessions. I think this was one of the finest sessions that we've had. And I congratulate you, because we wouldn't have been discussing all these things had you not consented to being here with us. So thank you so much. And I would also like to thank Shweta Nair, a beautiful student of ours who's been a wonderful moderator throughout the session. Thank you, Shonee Kapoor sir. Thank you, Amit Deshpande sir. And thank you, everybody who's joined us here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shweta Kapoor. Thanks,
Thank you
Shweta
so
Nair.
much, sir. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Amrita Rathirji.
It's wonderful.
Thanks for the PhD also that you have your discussion criticizing the sexual harassment law. Thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
everyone.
everyone for joining.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, sir.